friends and enemies. Something's wrong with my OBS camera. I can see there's a border on my picture. I'll have to fix that another time. Anyway, my name is Joey.
That?
I think I just repositioned the camera in OBS by mistake. My name is Joey. That's Len. It's CBP Day, but also Len Eclipse Day. It's Eclipse Day.
That border is growing on you, Joey. You're still gonna be blocked out by that.
It's Eclipse Day. I don't know about you, Len. I went outside today, looked for the eclipse, looked for the sun. All I could see was Uranus.
Did you touch it?
I couldn't reach, but dicey situation out there. Let me tell you. I was just saying to Len before we went on, packed here in Dundas. Lots of people watching the eclipse in the driving park, and different, my neighbors are outside all taking pictures with their welding glasses on. Interesting stuff. But yeah, as we were saying before, cool. You're not going to get to see that again in all likelihood, right? I thought it was 2044. We're having another one. Len tells me it's going to be sometime when we're both returning to the earth from whence we came. Anyway, so what's going on over there? How you doing? Good to see you.
Yeah, I'm not blinded from what I looked at the sun without any protection, or the eclipse without any protection, so I could barely see you, Joey. You're just a haze over there. It's gonna be fun. No, everything is good, man. Everything is good. We had quite a price pump.
Yeah,
overnight.
Yeah,
I don't know what's happened since. I'll be honest.
What's there to talk about? It's not. We got lots of other stuff going on besides price.
I see you're playing with your ball when I first.
I was brushing it. We are the playoffs of this week, so I bought this ball. This is a GST Prime. I am hooked on buying footballs now because it's amazing. Like I said this to you before, playing receiver for all those years, you don't really think about the ball you're catching. But let me tell you, when you're throwing, it's the only thing you think about. And so this one you can kind of see has these leather striping here. So this white is a different material than the rest of the ball, which is cool. And then there's like stitching in the tip where your finger goes when you're trying to hold the ball to give you a little extra point of texture. And then sometimes I throw it off lace too, depending on like what play we're in. God, this sounds so dumb. It's like beer league, but we do have a lot of plays. And so off lace, you can kind of get your hands on a couple of different places where they're stitching too. This is a good ball, but I haven't broken it in. It's still a little slick. Although you can hear it now.
Like right? Like it's not like made from the parquet floor from the Boston Gardens.
No.
Right? Like it's just like you just.
It does look nice though. I'll tell you that. But yeah, it's an ongoing thing. Anyway, my wife thinks I'm nuts. I'm like walking around the house brushing balls and like holding them and spinning them, trying to get my hands on it quickly. You ever do grip strength training?
With holding on your balls.
I know it's important. It's important. You ever do any grip strength training? You play tennis, you play golf. You find that's important?
In the car, I have one of those grip things.
Yeah, you do, eh? And you think it helps?
Right there. Yeah. And my car is out of service now. The clutch.
My God, what?
Incredibly.
Oh, man.
Yeah, well, it's gonna come back hopefully in the next couple of days. Nice. This is stuff this is beyond my repair because it looks like it must have sucked in air or something in the hydraulic clutch system, and I pressed the clutch down. It never came back up, and
that's good. Where were you when it happened? Hopefully in your driveway or something.
No, in the parking lot. I was happy that it happened there. And even if it was on the highway, I wouldn't give a shit. I would just, would have just coasted to the side of the road. It's just, it sucked. But you know what? That came after the event. Thank you, Tom and Nick, for inviting us to your event on Saturday. It was a phenomenal event. And my daughter had a lot of fun over there. Your Life, Your Terms events. They do this 2 or 3 times a year. And they hold it at the International Center in Toronto. This year they had Maurizio from Leiden as a keynote speaker. I didn't stick around to listen to him.
Because I didn't see his. I didn't see Tom's economic update. It was a great event though. Like you and I go, and they really pump us up. Like they were joking with us that they called our names and put our faces on the slide deck at the opening portion of the opening portion of the day, and we weren't there yet. So I feel kind of bad about that. But like it's a great event because it's people who are all aligned in understanding that there's something wrong with the money in the economy and we have to find ways to protect ourselves. And it's funny, the guy who was was helping assign badges and give people names and stuff, this guy, James, used to work out at the Good Life on Upper James here in Hamilton, where I worked out when I was living on the mountain. And immediately I said to him, I'm like, man, it's funny. You go to these events and you always see people who you see other places in your life. And these people have the same good habits. They have the same schedule. They have the same everything, right? So I was going to the gym, 7 in the morning, 6:30 in the morning before taking my French classes. And it was good to see him and meet him. I'm glad that he was there. Big shout to Mark and Anthony, who are doing their FinLit class online now after running a pilot in person. I know Sabrina was hyped about that. Your little one was pretty excited.
She wants to join up, and I went on the website to take a look how to do it. I think I have to sign up for first I think it's a trial before you're able to fully sign up. I couldn't find a way to just directly sign up without going through the trial. So I don't want to do the trial. I want to just sign up. I'll reach out to them to make sure that's the process. But yeah, it's a financial literacy for teens.
Finlit. Yeah.
And so she's very engaged and looking forward to talking. Even though she's not quite there, she's turning 11 in 16 days or something like that. But I think she'll be able to survive that course.
Yeah. So that was good. And then of course the Bull Bitcoin guys, where I spent almost my entire time there, because as soon as you talk to those guys, first of all, we talk to them all the time, thanks to the partnership we have with Bull for the show, and they've become, friends of ours. And I've met them a handful of times. Like in Toronto last year, we did go to the bar one night. That booth, of all the booths there, okay, there's a lot of stuff about real estate, vacation homes, different like traditional ways to invest your money. Len, that was the busiest booth. You told me that was the busiest booth last time at the last event that I couldn't make it to. Busiest booth again on Saturday. Crazy, man. The number of people who come in there and just say, look, we don't know enough about Bitcoin to buy on our own. We want you guys to help us. They were wheeling and dealing the entire 3.5, 4 hours I was there. It was wild to see.
They had to bring in more people from this time around, because the last time.
Who was there? Who was there? Kev, Guillaume,
I don't want to name names.
Matthew. Well, everyone knows their names. They were all there. It was a loaded booth, man. And the revolving door, people coming through, leaving with information about wallets, leaving with information about OTC white glove, leaving with information about why Bitcoin over other stuff, why self-custody is important. You can't beat that. Who else is giving you that? And I'm not just saying that because you're a sponsor of the show. Truly, who else is giving you that in the space? Nobody.
And if you're getting this information from a guy named Pablo, like that's
great. That's mustache to match on that guy too. I love that.
It's the first time I met. So Kevin and Pablo was the first time I met them both. I love chatting with them.
Yeah,
but yeah, it was nice meeting you all again.
Yes. If you're watching the show, a lot of you guys. It's flattering, Len. Every time we go to one of these events, people come and they say that they watch us or listen to us. And Tom and Nick, they loved our appearances on their show. And I mean, you can't beat it, man. It's a community of people, and it's not just CBP. It's Your Life, Your Terms. It's other Bitcoin stuff. It's other investing stuff where people are realizing all at the same time something is wrong. It's a movement. And, I think I won't speak for you, Len, but I imagine you feel the same way. I'm just happy to be a part of it. That's all. It's nice to come here Monday nights and do stuff on Saturdays. Although, damn, man, an hour drive and started at like 8:15. That's tough on a Saturday morning. I got to tell you, that was a tough Saturday morning for me.
The traffic was minimal, I would imagine. So it's basically just
hey, where do you live? A 20-minute bike ride or something? You're close to there.
No, it took me 25 minutes to get there. And plus on the way back, remember, I lost my car temporarily. So it stung. Anyways, Joey, it's time for our sponsors. I think it's a good time to bring up that.
Let's do it. So EasyDNS, Mark and the guys there. What?
Mark, why didn't he?
I know he couldn't make it. He slept in, he said. Damn. Yeah. So Mark, not great on Saturday mornings, but I will give a shout out to Mark, and someone who listens to the show tried to buy 2 domains and had a bit of a hiccup with the referral code. Mark hopped into action right away. There is no doubt that Mark wants you, listener, viewer, to be successful with your ventures on EasyDNS the same way we have been, and he will help you get there. So whether you want to register a domain, do some VPS stuff, Nostr Relay, BTC Pay Server, Bitcoin Node, you name it, okay? Even if you don't know if Mark can help you with it, I guarantee he will try, and he will give you the best of his abilities no matter what the issue is. We've been using them a lot. We publish on our website a couple of times a week now. You get the research report. You got the week upcoming. Our buddy Bitcoin Scribe posting some stuff there about payment apps last week. Very good article. Highly recommend reading that if you haven't already. And eventually maybe a mailing list. I don't know. We'll think about it. It's on the roadmap.
It's coming. It certainly is. And our second sponsor is
wait a minute. If you want to use EasyDNS, I didn't even give the promo code. That's like
go right ahead.
The promo code. CBP Media. Go there. Buy a domain. You should be hoarding them anyways. Domains, unlike Sailor says, the second best asset truly is domain names. So
you think so?
About it. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's up there probably, right? Better than silver coins, I think.
I think so.
Yeah.
Well, if you got a good
go there and use the code.
Yeah. Well, Bull Bitcoin is our second sponsor. And look at the price behind me, 71,930. So there's a lot of people out there that have interest in Bitcoin just because it's gone up in price. and it's driving people to buy Bitcoin. And Bull Bitcoin is a great place to buy your Bitcoin. You could also sell your Bitcoin if you wanted to through them, and it may be a good opportunity to do so given the price what it is right now. They give you the option to buy it not just on chain, but when fees are high. They're not high right now. They may in the future. They may very well in the very near future. So you can buy through Lightning. So you have different options. So you can still buy Bitcoin even in a high fee environment and still pay very cheap fees, just simply using the Lightning option that they provide people. And other options they do provide is you could pay your bills with Bitcoin. Again, price of Bitcoin being almost 72,000 right now. It's a good opportunity to start spending the Bitcoin that you've accumulated in the past, well, however long you've been accumulating Bitcoin for. And you could use that to pay your bills, like a car payment, a mortgage, electrical bill, whatever the heck you have. Also, you could use the Bitcoin through Bull Bitcoin and buy gift cards and spend that in the real world.
Yes,
that's
sir.
A really cool feature. But the last thing they have, and it's going to be mothballed for, well, I'm not sure how long, but at least we have 1 week left of this.
Temporarily.
It's
yeah.
KYC free buys. You go to Canada Post. April 15th is the last day you could do this. You go to Canada Post, load up your, well, give them Canadian dollars and to load up your Bull Bitcoin account. With that, you go buy KYC free Bitcoin. I talked about the merits of owning it. You got 7 days, 6 days ish to buy it through Bull Bitcoin.
15th,
do it, execute
right,
that.
15th, I think, last day.
15th, yeah. So I'm not sure if it's the midnight of the 14th. Like, I'm not, somewhere around there. I would say don't do it anytime past Sunday next week. That's my suggestion. But use our promo code below, and if you do that and open an account, you'll be having $21 added to your account once you provide all the necessary information and fund your account, or just go to iwantbitcoin.ca.
Perfect. So now we can return to our regularly scheduled programming, ball brushing ASMR.
Brush it good. Rub it up. I got some boost, Joey. You could rub your balls while I while I do this. So, Doug and Roop, 315 sats. The European Union has no chance when Bob Burnett rolls into town. Grateful for his personal and electrical energy for keeping both the network and the asset safely in our hands.
He's a beast. Sure by the way, I think Doug, for the first time, joining us in the live stream here without it being past his bedtime, thanks to where he's hanging out tonight.
Yeah, I don't know if it's past his bedtime. Is he out west? And he's
did he say? I thought he said that in the tweet. I got to look back now, but I think he said it's not past my bedtime, which is great. And he's enjoying a Peony Lane wine too. Ben Justman, shout out.
Very nice. Mo BTC Dick, 500 sats. He writes in, "Fuck, I love Bob." So do I.
He's great. He's great. I disagree with this John Walker take, but that's fine. We'll talk about that another time.
Mo BTC Dick, 500 sats. Again, same thing. He says, "You guys see the Hut 8 Reddit Ask Me Anything?"
Yes, I did.
He writes absolutely tragic stuff. I did see a little bit about it, but I didn't, I know they had to move it from one form, from one subreddit to another. People's getting downvoted every time they reply back. Maybe you could give some insight into that before I move on to the rest of it.
I wonder if maybe All Caps could give some insight into it, since he would know better than me, probably thanks to his connections with the Reddit team, the Reddit Bitcoin crowd. I don't know, All Caps, if you can share something. My understanding is that they posted it on the R Hut 8 or R Bitcoin sub, and it just got obliterated by downvotes and reporting from people who are like, we don't want to see this shit here. It's not Bitcoin. And I happen to agree. And you're starting to see this more and more, man. The miners are falling out of favor. I was listening to McCormick today because he had on James Lavish and Eric Yakes, and he's got Iris Energy, who we've had on the show. We had Dan Roberts on, many moons ago. And one of the things, that we've talked about since, as far as like having certain miners and not having others, is I don't want miners who are like, no, we're a data center company now. That's exactly what all these guys are doing. They realize that there's not going to be money in mining long term, and instead it's going to be something to do with compute. Now, I will say a favor to the show, Cathedra looks to be expanding in this direction too. I have faith in Drew and AJ and the team over there that they will not sell out the Bitcoin mission like some of these other guys have. And so I want to have Drew and AJ on at some point when they finish their operation. But to go back to what you were saying about the Hut thing, hilarious. What did you think was going to happen? Reddit AMAs hardly ever go smoothly unless it's like Bill Nye. That's like the only probably guy you could go on Reddit and do an AMA. Cuban got rocked too. He got destroyed. Yeah, there's not been a good. I don't ever go to the Reddit homepage, like the algo homepage, but I've never had like an AMA fed to me or sent to me that people thought was good or went off without a hitch. Most of the time, it's like gotcha questions these people have been avoiding. I don't know who in their right mind would do a Reddit AMA, honestly.
I guess if they ask us, we're not. You're gonna say no.
I'm out. I'm out. I'll do a video AMA. That's it.
I'll only do audio. There you go. So yin in the end. So Doom Damasm 521 sats. Madex rules. Respect. I thank you for your time.
We ended up kicking Madex all from you guys. All from you guys. What, you don't want to share the number?
No, I don't want to. So
we won't share the number. We won't share the number. We don't have to. But it was a nice chunk of change, man. That will, I'm sure, make things a little easier to stomach for him as far as that whole Dave Bailey JPEG thing.
Did it this morning. So
yeah, we sent it all this morning, and he's very grateful. Huge, man. So you guys really came through there. That's outstanding. It's amazing that we have that kind of community that can do that for somebody.
So yeah, so the next boost you're going to be sending us, we'll send it to a different cause, and we'll report that once we get there. So right now we'll just accumulate. Yeah. Doom the Mazin also writes in for another 521 sats. Thank you for your time. He always writes that. Our time is scarce, then precious like Satoshi's are.
Wow. He's expanding the boost text. Nice. Okay, nice. Good.
Sir Snacks a lot, 850 sats. Bob convinced me to point my miner to Ocean Pool. Gotta help contribute to decentralization. Really enjoyed him coming on and sharing his ethos.
Yeah. So he said on during your interview that Ocean gets more Bitcoin per terahash when he points his hash there than other pools. I was surprised to hear that.
Yeah, he's getting a better reward from just pointing it over there. So yeah, take that for what it's worth. If you're looking for more rewards, and if this is indeed the truth, so you'll probably get better value by doing that.
Yeah.
So point your hash rate to
Ocean. You do the first story, do the summary. I'm gonna try and fix my camera while you do it.
Okay. Well, we'll just be really quick on this one because this is one I'm curious to hear your thoughts. The United States, they are moving forward to sell off some other Bitcoin. They've been continually doing this for past, several years. And this time around, it's looks like a bunch of Bitcoin has been moved to Coinbase, sorry. And this is Bitcoin that they confiscated several years ago. In fact, this was during the whole Silk Road fiasco. And since they've accumulated this Bitcoin from this particular seizure, they've made massive gains just by holding it on their hands. So this amount that they're moving to, I like the thumbs up. This amount that they're moving to Coinbase for selling, it looks like it's 2,000 Bitcoin in total. This only represents some of their overall Bitcoin stash. The United States government is holding on to a significant amount of Bitcoin, and it's suspected eventually they're going to dump this all. But anyways, the process of this whole move was actually pretty funny because initially they moved only around $65 worth of Bitcoin to that Coinbase address. I'm guessing it's a way to test out that they understand how Bitcoin works before they move the whole enchilada. But the value which they moved was ultimately $131 million. But it's funny that they started off with just $65 worth, and then just to make sure that they understand the whole process. So I gotta give them credit. At least they're doing it the right way. They're being prudent, but seems like they don't have the right people working over there in terms of understanding what Bitcoin, how to use it. But anyways, the estimates show that the United States still have about 30,000 Bitcoin on their balance sheet just from Silk Road. And they have so much more Bitcoin. So that 30,000 Bitcoin, that's about, worth about $2 billion. That's as of last week. It's, the price of Bitcoin has gone up since then. So that's a lot of money they're holding on. And they have another address, the United States does, that holds another 94,000 Bitcoin, around $6 billion that they confiscated from hackers. Now that's $6 billion, again, I'm quoting from last week's price, so things have changed since then. The question I have for you, Joy, I'm curious as to the answer for this because I couldn't find it. Why are they slowly selling this Bitcoin? This time they're moving 2,000 to Coinbase to sell, and I presume they're going to move their remaining 30,000 from the Silk Road and sell that as well. But why not do it in one shot? Doesn't it make sense for them to do this, or just piecemealing it, doing 2,000 here, a few thousand there? Is that advantageous for them? I'm wondering, what's the thoughts behind this?
They got to sell it to cover Janet Yellen's IPA habit. You see her bomb down that beer in Japan or wherever she is, China. Her and Blinken.
No,
they're out on some. They're up. It's an Indian Pale Ale. India Pale Ale. Someone in the chat can correct me. It's the real hoppy beer. Anyway, she's every time I see Janet Yellen, she's bombing down a a beer overseas, either mushrooms or beer, right? Wasn't that the story before? She's on mushrooms on her last trade trip. I don't know why they're doing this, Len. I have no idea. I do think it's funny that they're clearly sending test transactions. Like, I don't know what else that could be. You got a couple billion in Bitcoin and you just send like $60 or whatever. Like, it's so obvious. I love it. I don't know. Like, I can just imagine the room where there's like 5 people in there. 4 of them or 3 of them are like extremely competent guys like you and me who like have Bitcoin on their own, understand how the transactions work, understand addresses and things like that. And 2 of them are just old head blue plate boomers. And the kids are like, yeah, let's just send this stuff. We can get it all there in one shot, pay less fees, whatever. It'll be obvious, but it's going to be obvious either way. And someone on the blue plate side of the table goes, shouldn't we send just a little bit first to make sure it works? And they're like, well, I guess.
Just to test it out. Maybe it's prudent to do that. I could give them, but
okay, fine, but it's still funny. Like, this is the US government, you know, like that's not what they should be doing.
Does that? Somebody that has never used Bitcoin before.
Exactly.
But once you've done it once, then you understand the process, and you just just make sure that the address matches what you're copying and pasting. Then you're okay. But the first time you ever do I know you're apprehensive. Is this going to move? Is this going to be lost? So these guys, they might be just sheer rookies for that. It's just interesting how they're doing it. Yeah, I would love to know why they're just doing this just in small chunks. Also, 2 more items I just want to add to this.
Sure.
One, you talked about it last week. They're using Coinbase. That's the exchange they're trying to nail to the cross, and they're using them to sell their Bitcoin.
Insane.
That's number 1.
Hilarious.
The second thing, and Odell, I think, was the first one I've ever seen mention this. This is several months or maybe years ago. He was saying, if Bitcoin is something that is something like cocaine, for instance, when you seize cocaine, you destroy cocaine.
Mm-hmm.
But when you get Bitcoin, seize it, but sell it, it's legitimizing it. Right? You wouldn't sell something that you wouldn't want to have a lifespan to it. You wouldn't want to the life continuing to that. If you truly think Bitcoin is bad, if you think Bitcoin should end, just like they would say drugs, like cocaine, for instance.
Yeah.
They would destroy it, but they're not doing it. They're selling it.
Yeah. I get that's a pretty good engagement tweet from Matt, but I think the real thing is that if there was a cocaine exchange and a cocaine ETF, they would sell it. It wouldn't matter what kind of destructive behavior it caused. The thing is that there isn't. So unless KJP is going into the, alleyways of Chicago or whatever and just going like, hey, buddy, like, you need a dime bag, half an 8-ball, like half quarter, whatever, like, you're not gonna be able to sell it. So it's not possible, right? It's better to take the PR and just say, yeah, we destroy every bit of coke and whatever else we seize, right? But for Bitcoin, it's easy to sell it. We know they're starved for cash. They can say whatever they want about, oh, we just sell it because we don't want it or we don't believe it's worth anything. But it's clear that they're getting something for it. They don't just sell it and then actually, you know what? They do sell it and burn the money. They send it overseas and do whatever with it. But generally speaking, I would say
they ever destroy the guns?
I don't know. Good question. I honestly, Len, I'm not convinced that like a lot of PDs even destroy drugs. Like, people have drug habits in those institutions too. And I can just imagine that there's times where they don't get seized or don't get put into evidence or don't get whatever. I think it's irrational or naive to think otherwise. Not pointing fingers, not naming names, but it just seems unlikely that over a broad swath of all these different arrests and confiscations, that all of it gets into a lockup somewhere. I mean, Law and Order SVU didn't make up the evidence tampering episodes. They heard it somewhere first, I'm sure. So anyway, yeah, I don't know. Do you think they're going to ever mention this down the road? Like when Bitcoin hits 100K, is Peter Ducey going to, ask Corinne Jean-Pierre, hey, by the way, like you guys sold, you can't figure out the SPR and now you can't figure out Bitcoin either. Like you're losing on every trade you try and make. What's going on over there? Should you be calling Arthur? Is Arthur Hayes, in your Rolodex? Can he be running your prop desk at the White House? Because you're getting fucked every time you get on TradingView. You might want to bring in some outside help.
And it's never going to be discussed, at least not for the next year. They have an election coming up. That's going to be the thing. But yeah, we'll talk about the election later this episode.
Really? Wow. Early for us for the election.
Well, no, we talk about it in every week. There's always something that tangentially to it.
Sure.
Yeah. Anyways, keep on the Coinbase topic because they announced they're going to be starting to have the Lightning Network offered to its customers. Now, it's going to be some time before this is ultimately rolled out, but they have at least announced this. And from what I could tell, they're not doing this with their own personnel in-house. They're using Lightspark to help them bridge this connection here. So, which is, I don't know, it leaves a bad taste in my mouth, the fact that they don't have, or they choose not to have the employees do it in the house. But anyways, if they could outsource this,
how much do you know about Lightspark?
Very little, to be honest.
Okay, so let me give you some oppo here. This is from the research I usually do. I didn't put it in the newsletter, but I knew we would talk about this. So people online are pointing out a number of things here. It's run by a guy named David Marcus. You know who David Marcus is?
Name doesn't yet ring a bell. Maybe it will.
I went to school with a guy named David Marcus, actually, but it's not the same guy. This guy was the chief tech officer behind the Libra attempt about 6 years ago.
Yes. Okay.
When Facebook basically tried to dethrone the USD out of nowhere, tried to make their own currency. Obviously, kicked down immediately by the U.S. legislature. So that's his claim to fame. He runs Lightspark, which is an A16Z company, Andreessen Horowitz. Coinbase, also an Andreessen Horowitz company. And my understanding, listening to All In and looking at Andreessen's, if you go back in Andreessen's tweets, you can see he promotes a lot of the times where his portfolio companies work together. And so, if you listen to guys like Odell and Marty, they'll make the case that, and I think it's true, like it's like demonstrably true, that Andreessen Horowitz really promotes his companies to work together, wants his companies to work together. So they kind of, I think, fit here a little bit, but I'll tell you why this is concerning. I think David Marcus was the guy, and maybe if All Caps is still here, can he tell me, or can you tell me if I'm wrong about this, or one of you guys listening, watching, is he not the guy who tried to get Lightning to KYC with some kind of like improvement request where you just add a text field to Lightning transactions, and the text field basically is like filled in with your address and name? I thought that was him, or that he was part of that, or Lightspark was part of that. And I'm not 100% sure if that's the case. I should have looked, but I was thinking about that earlier, and I can't remember. Someone tried to do that a while ago. I am sure that we talked about it. And I'd be curious to see if anyone else has seen that or heard that. So I'm the Coinbase Lightning implementation is going to be dog shit. These guys are in bed with the SEC. These guys are trying to appease regulators at basically every turn. Marcus's history is with CBDC adjacent products and projects. And that he tried to get this stuff through in Lightning as far as identification. Then when you add to that Coinbase actually won't let you use Bitcoin unless it's on their platform already for transactional stuff, you're only going one direction. They're trying to build a bit of a walled garden. Now they're way too late because there's so many other Lightning implementations that are ahead of them. And I think as an exchange, they have a lot of people who are not using Lightning anyways. So I don't think it's going to work for them. And I'd be curious to see how much traffic they get when they start doing their quarterly reporting. Armstrong will have to talk about this if there are any competent analysts, in late April, early May. I forget when their report is, but there will be a question about Lightning implementation. And if there are any competent analysts out there, like I was saying, they will ask the question, don't you think that you're too late to the game here? And how many of your customers, given that you've been telling us for 4 years, basically since you went public, or 3 years since you went public, that you're a trading platform and you cater to traders, you cater to new tokens, you cater to all these things. Don't you think that this is a waste of time? Unless you're doing it for other more nefarious reasons, like trying to get people to KYC on Lightning, which is, famously opaque. That's something I think I want to keep an eye on. And I expect that he'll have to answer questions about that. You're more of a Lightning guy than me. Do you think that they can make inroads as far as market share for Lightning wallets, channels? Like, what is the plan here? It's still very difficult. Coinbase doesn't have any of this stuff built into their app functionality at the moment. So what exactly is the plan as far as rolling this out?
If I'm going to guess, and it's just totally a guess, it would be similar to the bull Bitcoin model, where if you're going to buy Bitcoin and move it to, so you could custody your Bitcoin, and if fees are rather high, then it's going to encourage users to not use on-chain and pay a hefty fee and use an alternative like Lightning and pay cents. So that's where I'm guessing that's how they're going to be using it, as a way just to have users buy Bitcoin and take custody of it without using on-chain. So if that's the case, then two things are going to happen as a result. Number one, you're going to take away some of the congestion on chain. I'm not sure how much congestion Coinbase adds to on chain right now, but if they're going to be offering Lightning as an alternative and people choose to use that, then obviously it's going to take away some of the on chain demand. But on the flip side, then Lightning does have a ceiling in terms of how much capacity it could deal with. And we talked about the scaling issues with Lightning right now.
So you think they'll push it close to capacity if it really is successful? It like negates the whole attempt anyway. That's interesting.
It brings us closer to the capacity. I'm not sure if we're dangerously close with this being implemented, but it's just another set of users that are going to potentially be using it. And then, you know, how much closer are we to the capacity of the Lightning network? And
that's a good thought, Len. That's
something
a really
needs
good
to be
thought.
addressed. So it's good and bad in a way. Like, to be perfectly honest, having us achieve capacity in Lightning network is bound to happen. Be it today, tomorrow, next year, 10 years, it's going to eventually happen. You don't want to accelerate this thing. I don't want to use that term. You don't want it to push it any faster, so to speak. You'd rather let development go on its own. But Coinbase, if they're going to offer Lightning as an alternative, and I'm just assuming this is what they're going to be using it for people to buy it on high network fee environment, then it's just going to make Lightning, well, more congested. And is that a good thing? I think so. Let's put more money in Lightning. Let's put more thought and ideas to scale it out and move from there. But I don't know. That's just my 2 cents.
I got to be honest. And it's funny. Mark in the chat is telling me I should have a cope session on Coinbase. This is it, Mark. Okay, I'm coping. This is it right here. I wish that they would have thought like this 3 years ago, because if they had put out something like around a Lightning implementation 3 years ago, they could have taken arguably some of the better minds that came to the Lightning space over the last 3 years to try and help scale this thing and given them the resources they needed to get products out that could have negated things like the high fee inscriptions thing we just went through and are continuing to go through. But instead, they fucking tried to make money on it. And they offered this other stupid layer 2 thing, base or whatever it's called, and shitcoin offerings. And like, it's just frustrating for me as a Bitcoiner and as a bag holder of that stock that they're 3 years behind. Like, everyone else has already been trying to do this. And now you're going to show up and try and do it. The people on Coinbase don't want Lightning. They don't care about it. You guys missed the boat here because you didn't implement it when it was new, novel, and needed to be built, and there was opportunities to like co-opt some of the influence and build in Coinbase product, right? But they didn't do that. And so Lightning is probably better off for it. I will admit that. But as far as like a business development angle on this is like, I think it's really poor. Honestly, I think it's really, really poor. I'd be curious to hear what SB says. So maybe I'll ask him, see if he's got anything to say about it. And if he's got an angle, I'd love to hear it. He's not as technical as you and I, but he will be looking at their reporting when it comes out from both a point of personal interest and because it's part of his job. And so I might ask him and say like, hey, like what's in there about this? Is there anything of note fee structure wise? That's the other thing, right? Like their platform is like, admittedly, even the ETF custody is not going to make them enough money to keep the stock price where it is. They need trading fees. So what is the plan? Is this going to bump trading fees? Arguably this reduces trading fees, does it not? You're not taking, like, I don't get
the
it.
spread is still the spread. And so
I know that. But like people sending, I don't know. I just,
they're not taking the fees. The fees are going to the miners.
You're right. Yeah. You're right. I got ahead of myself there, but it's just like, I look at this company and every time they do something and make a huge announcement, I just think that you're late. You're late again. You wasted 2 years doing something that didn't take off. I mean, the base thing is one thing that we don't talk about a lot because it's, just outside of the stuff we care about, but not the base thing. What was the thing they launched? Like an NFT platform. Remember that? And it got like $1 million of traffic in like 6 months, like nothing. You know what I mean? Like it's like you guys completely missed the boat, completely. And it's too bad. And it tells me something about corporate culture there, because Armstrong, as a leader and as a Bitcoin guy, I think honestly, like, save your tomatoes, like don't throw them. But he gets it. I think he gets it. He was anti-woke. He told his staff no politics or fuck off. And that company has since been producing. The problem is the production efficiency is all going to the wrong stuff. That's the problem. And I don't know how you fix that. That's a corporate culture issue. And it's not fixable just because a guy doesn't want to talk politics in his Slack DMs. It's not, you have to have vision, and I'm not convinced that he has it.
It's time to jettison him and get somebody else. And
damn, who we putting in there?
In the right direction.
You?
I mean, no, gosh, no. I don't have the competency to
Let's
do
get
that.
Francis in there. Let's start the Francis running Coinbase hashtag.
Yeah, turn it into a Bitcoin only. Let's make it, give them the same type of features that does bull Bitcoin. But you know what the problem is? I don't think Francis would ever do that. Once this is a problem with every company out there, every exchange out there, that once you become publicly traded, you're trying to chase fiat gains. And this is unfortunately the reality is what you're trying to do. You're trying to appease your shareholders. It's not trying to appease.
It's not even about like that's even too esoteric. It's you have a legal duty to make money for the shareholders. Wherever that road takes you, you must follow it. And you are seeing that with publicly traded companies in the space. We talked about this offline. I will not discuss more, but Coinbase is one example we talked about, but there are others too. Well,
since we're talking about fiat, let's talk about fiat options for traders out there, because there's a couple of things I just want to bring up that I find to be interesting. So number one, ProShares. They've launched this is the very first, a daily 2x Bitcoin ETF. And
love it.
So
how much did you buy? 10,000? Did you buy 10,000 first day?
Why would I even do that? We have something similar to Canada. It's not a leveraged one, but anyways, so BITU is the ProShares Ultra Bitcoin ETF. So that is the bull case. And SBIT is the ProShares Ultra Short Bitcoin ETF. So that's the bear case. So you have BITU and SBIT. Both have been listed as of April 2nd on a New York stock exchange. And for those who are thinking about using this, remember, these are rebalanced on a daily basis. So it's advisable not to keep your money in there, especially if Bitcoin is going sideways for some period of time. If there is a long period of time of Bitcoin going up or a long period of time of Bitcoin going down, then yes, it may be advantageous to buy something and keep it. But who has a crystal ball to predict this stuff? So this is just for traders out there who want to take advantage of volatility that exists in Bitcoin. So I'm not, I'm definitely not going to buy any of this. It's available only in the New York Stock Exchange, so why do we care about buying it here in Canada? But anyways, I don't know. I'm not sure if you have any thoughts on this, but I do have another story I'm going to add to this.
The MSTR one, right?
Yeah.
Let's talk about it. Yeah, I like that one.
So I guess tied to the first story I was talking about, keeping up with the fiat options out there, there is a new inverse leverage. It's an ETF that's been filed. The prospectus has been filed by Defiance. And what this is a 2x short on MSTR ETF. The ticker and the fees, they haven't yet been publicly made available. So this is going to be the twice daily inverse performance of MicroStrategy. So similar to what I was talking about the ProShares, this is now specifically to do with MicroStrategy. And there's only the short, the 2x short. There's no bull case here. This I find really interesting because you're talking now a Bitcoin ETF that is tied directly to the price of Bitcoin minus the management fees.
Yes.
MSTR, you're investing in a company that does software solutions, but does have a significant amount of Bitcoin on their balance sheet. So it's almost a derivative of Bitcoin. Now you're going to be having the potential of having a
double beta. It's double beta. You get the Bitcoin beta plus the MSTR. This is going to rip people's faces off for sure.
Anything is going to be possible here because MSTR has had a wonderful run up in the past 15 months or so. I'm not exactly sure, but it's been a great time for people that have invested in them. But what goes up eventually does come down. There's going to be some balancing move. I'm not going to say MSTR is going to go down, but you never know. 7 straight months of green for Bitcoin. I'm not sure if we're going to have an 8th straight month. We'll see. Potentially, we have a halving coming up, but either way, that's a topic for another time. I don't know. There seems to be a lot of interest in the shorts. Granted, this is not the most shorted stock out there, but still there seems to be a significant amount of interest in shorting MSTR. Now you have an ETF that's going to be 2x the daily leverage or the daily inverse on that. Like, I don't know what's going on. Is the MSTR
how inclined self-harm do you have to be to take a 2x short on MSTR? Like the fiat mind, some of the fiat FinTwit guys I get sent from friends of the show, like Massa will send me stuff sometimes. Like the people in his sphere, you know, Massa Capital is a pretty big FinTwit account, like a medium-sized FinTwit account. The number of things on his timeline where people not only hate Bitcoin, but hate MSTR and hate Sailor. Like it's a pure, just like black, my heart is black, icebox where my heart used to be for the millennials play against Mike Saylor. It is like, how else can you describe this? There's no reason why you would ever risk this when the price of Bitcoin moves basically on animal spirits only at this point, right? Like it's like, it is true. I like Bitcoin. You like it. I get why it's valuable. Don't get me wrong. But to say that this thing is not volatile is a lie. And if you're going to risk 2x short on it, fine. But then to risk 2x short on the high beta derivative in MSTR, are you trying to lose your house? Well, why would you ever do this? I don't get this at all. Unless Bitcoin like plummets overnight or something, and you wake up in the morning and buy, you know, that 2x short, or buy the first bounce in the 2x short or whatever, then maybe you do okay. But ultimately, you know, when we talk about how the SEC is all about investor protection, unless it means they can actually make money, where's the protection here? Who's asking for this product?
Defiance is the name of who's providing the prospectus. I'm not sure who's going to be, has the.
I would love to see what ETFs they have. I have to look right now.
Well, remember this isn't obviously under the SEC's jurisdiction, but Binance at one time had 125 times leverage trades you could do. And I think other exchanges offer that as well. And if they're offering it, there's a market for it.
Yeah.
So there's people out there.
It's all options ETFs actually. So they have like, yeah, there's a few here. NASDAQ 100 enhanced options income ETF, S&P 500 advanced options income ETF, Russell 2000 advanced options ETF, Treasury alternative yield ETF, and S&P 500 income target ETF. So it's mostly derivative stocks. There's some other stuff here too. Quantum. I don't know. Like, come on, Quantum. Give me a break. 5G ETF. I don't know. I get it, but these guys look like a small player unless there's more here. No, there's not. They only have about 9.
I never heard of Defiance before this story. But that doesn't say much, to be honest.
Yeah, me and you are not the target audience, I guess, right? But yeah, interesting all the same. Yeah.
Well, like I was saying, if there were companies out there that were offering up to 125x leverage trades,
yeah,
there's traders out there that I don't know how much money is floating around that's waiting to be invested in this, but you know what? There's people that they're trading everything and anything, and here this is just another option. You know what? The stock market, it's just, we make fun of Binance being a shitcoin casino. Like, come on, it's not like the New York Stock Exchange. The same type of, like, it's.
It is. Of course it is. Look at the stuff you can get. They have 0-day options. They have 0 day to expiry options. It's like insanity. And Zero Hedge already talks about, I'm gonna sneeze here. Zero Hedge already talks about how the Bitcoin ETFs get nuked by derivatives, and then that's when you see the big guys buying up their Bitcoin for the ETFs, and that's when the price jumps again, right? Now, Zero Hedge is a little doom and gloom, a little conspiratorial, but sure does happen an awful lot. And so, like, when you talk about, again, investor protection, show me legitimate, tangible investor protection that these guys have done in the last 5 years. There's nothing. Zero. Zip, zilch, nada, nothing. So, like, what are we doing here? This is not like if you're trying to hide it. There's no veil. This is clearly a dangerous product. I should not be allowed to buy this. Because now, like, what's the next logical step, right? Is it the 2x long MSTR?
I'm shocked that they're only offering one of the two. Like the pro shares, to their credit, they're offering both sides of the spectrum. So if you want the long, if you want the bear case or the bull case, you have the options. But these guys are only providing the bear case.
Len, as if there's not enough divorces being caused by the MSTR run up over the last, like you said, 15 months. You got to double the intensity, the inertia behind your asset value decline. Why? For what?
To go back, good for you for not sneezing on the air. Have you ever listened to, I'm going to go into the weeds here. Have you ever listened to some guy named We're Gonna Lose?
No. What's he do?
he just trolls people on games like NASCAR and Call of Duty. So in the NASCAR one, it's just phenomenal stuff. So we're gonna lose on YouTube.
I'll find it.
Like, somebody's gonna pass him. He sneezes, a pretend sneeze, and he wrecks them. He does it so many times. It's such a good channel, and the reactions he's getting. He plays football, and when he's the quarterback, he runs back to from the line all the way back. He's like, "Come back! I'm gonna throw you the ball." It's good stuff.
I love that.
But the sneezing is what made me laugh when you
on YouTube rabbit holes. I sent the Corn Lords a video the other day. You guys should watch too. Video Game Donkey talking about Donkey Kong Country and how he's like, I can't believe anyone even plays the game because the intro music is so good. And he just talks about how good the music in the game is. It is awesome. It is a very good video. I love Video Game Donkey's videos.
Send it over to me.
Yeah, I'll send it to you. I'll put it in the chat. You keep going here.
Well, let's talk about 3 stories. I clumped these together, and these are stories that come from mainstream media. So you ever hear of Bitteroo?
Yeah, actually, I think.
Wow. Okay.
What is it? Man, I'm not guaranteeing I've heard of it, but I think I've heard of it.
So they're an exchange, and they're an Australian-based exchange, and they are Australia. They claim to be Australia's biggest Bitcoin-only exchange.
Okay.
And they also provide services available in New Zealand. Well, they announced this week, unfortunately, that they have been debanked in New Zealand, and their payment processor cannot provide payments in the quote-unquote crypto industry. So yeah, I don't know, man. When you hear stuff like this, and we hear a few of these every so often, and every time I read it, it seems like it's an indirect attack on Bitcoin. And I suspect you're going to hear more of these moving forward because it just makes sense. One way to hurt Bitcoiners is to prevent the on-ramp, or at least limit the on-ramps, and maybe use the very friendly like Coinbases of the world.
Is the answer. Yeah, this is the answer.
And so that's one story. So then this is the second one. That's why I wanted to clump these 3 together. Is there's a proposal out there by lawmakers in Paraguay, and this is to temporarily ban Bitcoin mining for 6 months. And whenever you hear the word temporary, who knows, it's going to potentially become permanent. It's something that is troubling, obviously, because there has been a effort to expand Bitcoin mining operations in South America, Paraguay included. Paraguay has 100% of their energy coming from hydroelectric. So the narrative that Bitcoin uses dirty energy, it doesn't apply here because, well, the energy that's being produced is quote unquote green.
Wow.
So they say one of the arguments of the law that they're proposing is that there are many illegal Bitcoin farms. So people are plugging in equipment without talking to.
Where are we in the timeline here where there's governments announcing that there are something called illegal Bitcoin farms that need to be shut down?
I guess
I didn't have that on my bingo card. Where are we?
Well, it goes further, Joey, because not only that, and they say this is going to provide some measure to, quote, protect consumers, end quote, of virtual assets. I don't know how that's going to be the case, how this provides a level of protection for consumers, but they believe this is the case. Anyways, that's the second story. The third story is Strike. It looks like they're getting pushed out of Argentina because their payment partners, they're winding down operations. So users in Argentina can no longer pay with Bitcoin through Lightning. Argentina, they have introduced a regulatory framework to closely monitor cryptocurrency transactions and platforms. This comes after Milei came into power.
Yeah.
And so the regulation 994, you can check it out, Argentina regulation 994, it says all wallet providers must be listed and regulated. So they want to know who has what and have to be regulated as well.
Len, who could have seen this coming? Who could have seen this coming, Len? Who could have seen it coming?
I'll be honest, I had no idea. I gave, when he was elected, I had no idea which way he's going to go. I gave him a blank slate and basically let him go. But anyways, these are 3 stories that I kind of clumped together because they all seem to be an attack on Bitcoin. So I'll just rehash them. We have the Bitteroo story, we have the Paraguay story, and we have the Strike getting kicked out, or at least hurt, in Argentina. So 2 of the 3 South American stories. That to me is concerning. Remember, South America, they're trying to push mining in those areas. also the citizens over there, they've been wrecked and wrecked and wrecked over and over again. Let's give them an opportunity to buy an asset like Bitcoin and use it. But I guess it's all up to lawmakers if they want to allow that to happen. We'll see.
Isn't it true that you and I have been very skeptical about almost all politicians since Eric Adams, maybe even before that? Remember Eric Adams?
For me.
Do you remember Eric Adams saying, insane?
I was big on him.
Suarez, Adams, like now I just assume all these guys are crooks. I mean, politics is a very difficult game to get into and to keep your principles intact, the things that got you there, arguably. And to hear some of the stories, about Bitteroo and stuff, I would say that's almost the expectation now. That's the baseline, that anyone that's not playing ball with, the same level of cooperation that Coinbase is or Fake Pay is or whatever, they're going to have a hard time. You've seen it here with Bull Bitcoin. You've seen it with Kraken in the US. You're seeing it with Bitteroo in Australia. That's expected for me. And I think that's something we all have to be concerned about. And we've talked about this before, so it's not new for people who are listening and watching. But the thing that is new is the zeal that people had in their support, like steadfast Teflon support for this Melee guy. Everyone was posting that video about him dashing away one after another. Garbage, big trash, government departments, equity gone, music and arts gone, this one gone, whatever. Well, how's this going for you now? Now this guy is talking about IDing everybody who's got a Bitcoin wallet. Good. What's your plan to get rid of him? This guy, you got completely fleeced. The lesson here is that no matter who you vote for, the inertia heading towards the algorithm ghetto is too strong to fight back against with an election. Period. End of story. You can vote as hard as you want for whichever color. I saw a quote a little while ago. It's like people reach into a bag of marbles where half of them are red and half of them are blue. They cry if the wrong color comes out and cheer if the right color comes out. At the end of the day, they're all just fucking marbles. And you're at that point now. I think a lot of people realize that. Bitcoiners realize that because everyone's been memeing this vote harder thing or, whatever for a long time. But you can't vote your way out of this. So what do? People have to vote with their money, right? And so you vote with your money. You vote where you put down roots. You vote where you find employment. You vote where you contribute to your community and things like that. But voting at the ballot box, it doesn't do anything. Even in the countries where politicians are sort of the most adverse to, we'll call it, this sort of modern Western direction, you still are counting on basically 4 years of bubble wrapping the politics and principles that got them into power and not conceding to what is ultimately just an incredible grinding machine in every Western democracy. No one escapes this. There just hasn't been an example of a politician who's ever ruled the way they campaigned. The best example of this, I think, is Obama. Obama ran on this campaign of change and hope, and he dropped bombs like they were COD kill streaks all over the fucking world. For 8 years, he did that. And, he didn't run on change at all. He put in the American Healthcare Act, whatever that was, the Affordable Care Act. That was a handout to insurance companies. You got fleeced. And that should have been the wake-up call for people. And in the States, to some extent, it was. They voted for Trump right after that. But this idea that, whoever you vote for is going to really help you and deliver on the promises of salvation that they make in order to get you to scribble in their name at the box, you got another thing coming. And if you don't get it by now, like a wise man once said, I don't have time to explain it to you.
What did Melee say about Bitcoin through his campaign? Because to the best of my knowledge, he said nothing.
Yeah, I don't think so either. He was just more of an anti, big state guy. But I mean, it's in line. I think you and I described him as a Bitcoiner without Bitcoin, right? He has a lot of the same ethos, but clearly now he's not. Clearly that was, I think, cautious optimism on our part, and he really, flipped that on its head. So
I think what he campaigned on. From my vantage point, it seems like he delivered on those. He's delivering on those promises. He said he was going to be cutting the public sector, and he's done that. So the stuff that he's talked about, I think that he's gone ahead but there's things that he didn't talk about, and people were trying to fill in the blanks.
Yeah,
and unfortunately, they filled it in wrong. That's the reality.
That's one way to put it. Yeah, it seems that way, right? And it's still early, right? Who knows how much further he'll go? This is
true.
Early days for him to be doing this right away. That's not promising, I don't think.
Well, remember Mike Harris when he first was elected?
Yeah.
He
tell people who Mike Harris is if they don't know. We have a younger crowd sometimes. I think he was the premier in like 96 in Ontario,
95.
Right? Something like that. Yeah, okay.
95 to 99 and then 99 to 2002-ish before Ernie Eves took over from him. He was our premier in Ontario. He took over right after Bob Rae's NDP were in power. And so when he came in, Ontario was coming out of a recession and they were heavily in debt. And so he was saying he's going to be slashing and burning. That's what his campaign was. They elected him and he did exactly what he did. And people were upset at that because a lot of people suffered as a result of it. But that was his campaign and he followed through on that. And for the first term, the second term, he sold it the 407 or leased it for 99 years to win it.
Because they don't care. Second term president, prime minister, premier, whatever, just doesn't care because they no longer have to worry about votes. Right. And in Canada, it's a little different, I guess. You can just be premier indefinitely and until you die or whatever. But
no, there's still
there's a shelf life. You're right. There's a shelf life. Exactly. We agree on that. It may not be codified, but there's for sure a shelf life in every ruling epoch. So yeah,
100%. It's like a coach in sports. It lasts for only so long.
Can't lose the locker room.
Yes, and in this case, the constituents. I guess we'll do one quick story, maybe two more, depending how much time. I just want to. This is really, really quick. There's a lot of noise out there. And if you look at what's going on Stacker, on X, there seems to be a lot of noise out there between Seedsteiner and CoinKite or / Cold Card products.
Yep.
Now, I just want to say out there in this, I have no skin in the game, none. I have Cold Card. I like my Cold Card. I recommend a Cold Card. There may be other products that are just as good as better. I'm not sure of any right now, but I'm not saying that there aren't.
Bull recommends Cold Card too, right? That's in there. Sweet Odell. A lot of guys recommend Cold Card. You're not alone.
Yeah, it's like a good product. So there's so much noise out there. Try to sift through this, and there's going to be a lot of FUD being thrown out there. I'm not trying to say a particular product is what you should be buying. Like I said, I like a Cold Card. I use it. Do your own research. There may be something better out there, but I haven't come across it. But just please do your own research. There seems to be a lot of mud being slung around, and I think it's hurting the community more than anything else. There are good products. Like I mentioned, Cold Card is, I'm not going to upgrade my Cold Card. I could buy a Q. And the reason why I'm not going to buy a Q is because I like my Cold Card. I would hate to see that mothballed and collect dust. That's how much I like my Cold Card. I want to continually use it moving forward. And it's not a slam against the Q. That's a testament to how much I like my Cold Card. But just all this garbage just being thrown out there, the mud being slung, name calling and arguments and all this bullshit. Man, oh man, I fucking hate it. Just if you are out there and you're trying to look at a product to buy, try to sift through that noise out there. There is signal, but you just have to find it. It is there.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, I mean, ultimately, short of Ledger, maybe Trezor too. I don't know that much about what they got going on. I think they have a Bitcoin only hardware device now, but you're not going to really do too much to move off what you have. Like Len said, if you have a hardware wallet that works for you and you understand and are competent with, it's really important. And Cold Card's not for everyone. Seedsteiner's not for everyone. Ledger, Trezor, whatever, the foundation devices, Keystone, you name it. Lots of options out there. The new block one, what's that one called? The Pebble or something? I forget. But yeah, tons of options, man. The most important thing is it's secure. Your keys are offline. It's open source, and you know how to use it. You have to know how to use it. That's important. Everything else is just noise, including the mudslinging online.
So one of the things people are saying is that Cold Card is not open source verifiable. You can look at the source code. You could, but the thing is, because they own the source code, they're not going to allow anybody to take advantage of it and to profit from it. And that's fine. That's their prerogative. If they want to do that, that's their choice. But you can still, if you want, you could check the source code. It is there for you to look at. And if you think there's something that's fishy in it, I don't think anybody does, but it's freely available. Check it out. Take a look at it. And I guess I'll say one last story really, really quick.
Sure.
This is just hot off the shelf. Bloomberg is saying that El Salvador is buying back some of their debt. And this is a positive forward-looking indicator, and it shows that the solid footing of Bukele's government is standing on. So they're saying they're going to be buying back bonds at risk as risk premiums fall. The country will be offering to repurchase bonds due in 2025, 2027, 2029. So that's
I am eating crow on this in a major way.
Well, I'm not sure. Like, I just thought this is interesting. I talked to Jaime Garcia
about a month ago.
2 weeks ago.
No,
yeah, maybe a month. And we talked significantly at length about what's going on in El Salvador. The country has turned around. It's like on 180 in terms of the safety and the economics over there. There seems to be a lot of positive momentum going on over there. So lots of work to do, but it's so much better than it was a few years ago, and it's a lot has to do with Bukele's policies that he's instituted. So what's going on here? I like what's being done here. I talked in the past about the Bitcoin bonds. I wasn't too impressed about them, but with respect for them trying to buy back the bonds, it goes to show you that I think they're doing the right thing, and they're thumbing their nose at the IMF through all this, and I like it. You know,
probably doing more with other fingers to the IMF too. I think actually, yeah, I'm pretty sure. You know, I'm worried. The thing about El Salvador and Hervoye Morich, who's a friend of the show, everyone should be listening to Geopolitics and Empire because it's a good show. He raised a good point with me after we recorded, and it might have even been during the program too. Bukele's made public comments about how he wants to turn El Salvador and the rest of LATAM into a European Union style state. And like, I that's one thing I wanted to ask Jaime. I didn't go to that episode, but I do want to talk to him. Maybe I'll message him on Twitter, or Jaime, if you're listening. What do you make of something like that? You know, isn't that alarming? Because that's really, really dicey stuff to basically, you know, abdicate your sovereignty to a supranational body that's largely unelected. I mean, Len, if you think it's hard to get your city councilor to fucking do something for you, wait till you see what it's like when you only have a representative in a supranational legislative body. It's, I'm sure, much harder, as the European countries are finding out the hard way in a lot of ways. But it's like the worst thing you could say, and it really flies in the face of everything else he's doing. He doesn't seem bothered by outside influence when it comes to stuff like the IMF, but wants to hop onto a multi-state structure with other LATAM countries. Why? Either he thinks he can be the dominant player in that ecosystem, that environment, which, I don't know, a little Machiavellian, but it works. I get that. But what's the other rationale? What could the other rationale be? That he wants to take away sovereignty from people or from his state, or I don't know. I don't know what it is.
The details. Like, if it's strictly like just engaging and setting up trade agreements with other countries, maybe then
you can choose your words a lot more carefully, right? He's very careful with what he says. As Jaime has pointed out, he comes from a PR background and a sort of a light show and fireworks background, figuratively speaking, of course. I don't think he actually does pyrotechnics, but he knows what to say and why to say it and how to say it. For him to say that, he's not just talking off he never speaks off the cuff, I would argue. And I think that for him to say that is a little alarming. I don't know. Jaime's welcome back on the show anytime. So maybe we got to have him back on. We could have Jaime and Hervoye on at the same time and maybe get some insights there. Host a little debate between those two guys.
Let's make it happen if it's possible.
Yeah,
that'd be a good listen.
I think Hervoye can only really rip. Maybe because he left TNT Radio. So maybe you could do one at night. I don't know. I'll talk to him. We can see about that for the summer when the schedule dries up. Inevitably.
Yeah. Well, you know what, Joey? Let's wrap up this Bitcoin segment and move on to the notable stories.
Sure.
Time.
Looking forward to the notables. If you're on video, do nothing. If you're on audio, I guess, you could also do nothing, but tomorrow the rest of it will come to your feed. You can do whatever you want if you're on audio, really. But video, please stay there. And we'll see you when we see you.
Don't be a cuck.
Great.
103.51.
Yeah, 103.58. I like the pause because I can see it in the waveform when I edit this after. I got to tell you, I am looking forward to editing this show because I bought the largest bag of mini wheats that is offered by retail grocers yesterday for $10. It was on sale for. And I'm going to dig into it while I edit this program. So looking forord to that.
So, there's still so much more to talk about. We may have a host of stuff you have to edit.
Listen,
edit out. Maybe we'll see.
I forgot to say at the beginning of the show. I want, if you are in the Hamilton area and consider yourself to be a competent athlete and are free on Wednesday nights in the summer, I may want to talk to you about playing touch football at St. Mary's High School, 5-on-5. I don't know how expensive the league is yet. It's like $2,200, I think, for the league. We need a few guys. So if you're competent, I hate to put an age limit on this, but like try and be under 40 if you can. I will throw, and I need guys who can catch and guys who can play defense, rusher, stuff like that. So there's your announcement. I should have done that at the beginning of the show, but I am recruiting.
Recruitment hour. I didn't expect it.
I'm recruiting via CBP. I'm using this platform for all manner of things now. So there you go.
And New York City. Let's talk about them, because they have decided to raise the minimum wage on those working for Uber Eats. And the
this is so nuts.
Yeah.
Well, this is so nuts.
Minimum hourly rate right now, well, it's going to be set. It's not quite there yet. It's going to be $19.56 USD per hour, and that will, once it's set to that point, it's also going to be adjusted annually for inflation. So, as per the announcement made by New York City Eric Adams, the city's minimum pay rate for the app-based restaurant delivery services is increasing to at least $19.56 per hour before tips. I don't think there's going to be much tips after this raises that much. But this is also of note, it's a phased-in approach, because the 2024 rate is going to be $18.90. And when it's fully phased in on April 1st, 2025, then the workers will be earning the $19 and change per hour, and that's going to be adjusted for inflation. So $20 per hour, let's call it that. To be honest, this gets you absolutely nowhere in New York. Right? Anybody earning $20 an hour, you're not going to be able to sustain yourself, let alone even a quarter of yourself, because it is a very expensive city to live in. But let's be perfectly honest. People working this is not a job it's not a full-time job. It's not something, and I don't mean to offend anybody out there, this is not something one aspires to be as their vocation for the remainder of their career. This is something that maybe is a stopgap or an addition to their existing job, like just you do it on evenings and weekends. This is not going to be, you're not going to school in high school and college/university and say, yeah, I want to be an Uber Eats driver. That's what I'm going to school for. That's not really the case. So
does Conestoga have that program?
Sorry?
Does Conestoga have that program?
They should. Maybe they could attract a whole bunch of people from New York City to come in and then send them back there, but they won't. Seattle is an example of what happens when you institute a higher minimum wage. Now, we talked about what happened in Seattle.
Yeah.
For people like Uber Eats and the likes, that now the people delivering for them, they're delivering a fraction of the amount. The business has dropped off a cliff because people are less likely to spend money when the delivery service costs significant amount. Look, money is not infinite when it comes to people like you and I. So we'd have to, even if we have poor budgetary habits, still we don't have an infinite supply of money. So they're going to be either doing less orders of this, or they're going to be apt to pick up the food themselves if they have to eat out. So as a result, the people that are going to be suffering once it's all said and done are the people delivering the food. New York City does have a lot of high rollers out there. There's people making a great deal of money. So perhaps they're banking on the fact that raising the minimum price for delivery is going to be they'll be able to absorb the extra cost. But I don't know. I suspect people in that lifestyle aren't ordering Uber Eats. They're going out to fancy restaurants. So yeah, it's another example of them increasing the payments, the rates, hourly rate. And this one, it's, like I say, it's $20 per hour in New York doesn't get you very far, but you know what? No. They're probably not going to make very many deliveries once this comes into effect.
The other thing, like people in the chat, I don't know how many people are getting Uber Eats, but there's people talking about it in the chat. I was just talking about this with my wife the other day because we were like at the grocery store just commenting on how expensive everything's become. And we're guilty of getting Uber Eats sometimes. I don't mind after, a long day, especially in the summertime, doing like yard work or, you get a football game and then you get some stuff to do around the house. We are like keen sometimes on getting sushi from Uber Eats. And I've noticed, and I'm sure everyone's noticed, she noticed, I noticed, everyone is kind of talking about this kind of stuff. So, in addition to sort of the convenience costs and delivery fees and taxes and, administrative costs that Uber charges you on Uber Eats orders, they also raise the price of every menu item for each restaurant. So now you're getting upcharged on the restaurant. You're going to get upcharged on the delivery, upcharged on all the other services to cover this minimum wage thing. At what point is it actually just cheaper to like get a cab driver to go pick up your food? Isn't that the next logical step? There's enough cab apps now that you don't have to like actually call Blue Line or whatever. Like these guys are giving up their competitive advantage. I shouldn't say giving up. They're being stripped of their competitive advantage by communist administrations in places like New York and other foolishly blue, jurisdictions. Yeah, I see you trying not to laugh there. I just think that this is so dumb. Like, and so Uber isn't the next logical step for Uber in a place where no one can afford to live or eat anyway, just to say, fuck it, we're not going to operate here.
If they can make money, if they could justify it, they're going to be able to.
If they can justify it. But like, I think we both agree that this moves them closer to not being able to justify it than the inverse.
Well, to be honest,
these places will just lose these services, right? Like that's the thing. Canada, by the way, Canadians know this, whether they understand that it's happened or happening or not. One of the reasons you can't get a lot of stuff sent to Canada from like US manufacturers or global manufacturers, like this fucking football, it was almost impossible to get sent here because I had to get sent from fucking Europe because you can't get one from the States. Long story. But the reason you don't get a lot of stuff sent to places like Canada is because we just have all these stupid taxes on imports. Like it just doesn't make sense for these guys to operate here. We're a small population. And so, we're not quite in the same boat as New York and Uber, but like it's like on the same continuum. And like you said, if they can justify it, yeah, they'll keep doing it, sure. But man, they got to be getting close. I guarantee that they're having these conversations. What is the threshold as far as these minimum wage for Uber drivers laws and how much we can upcharge and how much people in New York can afford to pay for a slice of pizza when they're too hungover or too drunk to go get it themselves. That's basically the target audience, is it not? Feels like that's what the target audience is. So
if they do decide to pull out, it's going to be symbolic more than anything, right? It's because
that's usually what it's like when I pull out too. It's just a symbolic thing. Yeah.
So the reality is, how much infrastructure do they have in anywhere? It's basically, I mean,
none.
I don't know too much about.
They have no
exactly. I would say
it's
it's all like service based.
Yeah,
somebody signs up, they
TTYL.
Right. So for them to operate in New York, it's just if there's one car that wants to operate, they'll be happy to do it because it gives them exposure there. And I can see them wanting to continue there. But that's why I say if they're going to pull out, it'd be a symbolic move to try to
and like, here's the other question, right? Like let's say you have like, I don't know, let's say you live in a place where there was 1 million immigrants added to your population in the last, year or so, and none of them were able to find jobs. And they all had to drive Uber and Uber Eats and Lyft and Ride or whatever else that they drive, all these, rideshare / delivery apps. And minimum wage for those apps jumps to $20. And then the demand drops significantly. Where do all those immigrants that you just let in over the last 12 months end up having to go for work?
Well,
where do they go?
I imagine they'll go into
social services.
Money. Yeah.
So then you wind up with a bigger problem, right? Like the costs here, it's so funny to me. It's not funny. There's another word for this. I don't know what it is. I'll just say funny. It is funny, actually, but that's not the only thing it is. It's also sad, stupid, embarrassing for the state of New York, city of New York, I should say. It's funny that you and me can get here just like, bullshitting back and forth for a couple of hours about Bitcoin and economics. We can get to the immediate second order effects in 15 seconds. Are you telling me that this guy, Adams, and his, pals there, his dyed-in-the-wool commie friends couldn't figure this out after what was probably more than $1 million in consulting and interactions with Uber and community stakeholders and a dozen meetings and all the associated administrative costs? They never thought like, oh yeah, we did just take 1 billion immigrants from all over the country, including busloads from Texas over the last year on a daily basis by the sounds of things. A lot of them are doing this as a service. We need the demand for the service to stay high. We shouldn't force people to pay more for it. Yeah, well, we're not going to do that. It's just so stupid. This is why the conspiracy crowd views this as intentional controlled demolition of an established system of norms and expectations, because it's almost impossible to be this moronic on a policy front, but they do it. It's not that hard, to see why guys like Peter Schiff are so adamant that minimum wage doesn't work. He's right. Honestly, he is right. there's some middle ground, between living standards and work, but minimum wage is not the lever. That's not the lever. There are other levers we should be pulling.
Well, I got some stories here from mainstream media articles that are trying to gaslight people. I want to just bring them up. So Wall Street Journal title, "What's wrong with the economy? It's you, not the data."
I love that.
So they say 74% of respondents, there was a poll done, said inflation has moved in the wrong direction in the past year. The 12 months through February, inflation, according to century-old consumer price index, was 3.2%. And that was compared to 6% a year earlier. They say taking out food and energy, for that matter, look, like inflation is still down. So they're taking away the stuff that matters most to us. Shelter, food, energy.
Have any of these guys tried to live without food and energy? Have they tried it?
Or shelter? But no. But if you strip that out of the equation, then yeah, things are going down. So anyways, it's just, and they're saying that you're the problem, not the data. Like, I don't know. That's the first gaslighting article I saw here. Second, this is from The Independent. It says how climate change is hitting vulnerable Indonesian trans sex workers.
Stop, Len. That can't be a real story.
It sure is. Apparently, the longer rainy seasons and the higher winds are causing issues with the trans sex workers in Indonesia as compared to
okay, you guys don't know Len like I do, but I'll tell you, he is fucking trying hard not to laugh while he is reading this. He is giving it all he's got.
It's funny stuff. So yeah, out there, next time you're thinking about starting your car and going on a joyride, think of all the trans sex workers out there that they can't get their own joyride, all thanks to climate change. So we have to think about them as we do our part to mitigate their problems. Another one, John Stark Reed. This guy, he is the president of the John Reed Stark. John Reed Stark Consulting. I got it wrong. Anyways, but he's also a senior lecturer fellow at Duke University of Law. So he is in a prominent position at a prominent school, and he's teaching law, right? He writes a very long-winded article at this. Tether kills, Bitcoin kills, crypto kills. Crypto-related carnage continues to grow exponentially. And for what? The problem is he's linking Bitcoin to Putin's war machine and also Iran's terrorism, right? So he's saying that crypto has no underlying intrinsic value, no semblance of any form of legal tender, and yet significant resources of energy, people, and capital are expended on its creation. And he says, he also writes, people don't bother with the typical responses like, say, now do fiat, because if you do that, he says he'll block you. He will fucking block you. This is straight from this law guy from Duke University. Crypto as an asset has failed. There's no cash flow, no yield. Crypto as an investment failed because there's no regulatory insight. Crypto has failed as a currency because the price is too volatile. Crypto has failed as a store of value because it lacks utility and intrinsic benefits.
But don't reply. Don't
fucking reply.
I'll block you.
And it fails as a safe haven because there exists no government oversight or protections to provide any semblance of safety. There you go. We got a lot of gaslighting going on here. I love it. They're just, just clump them all together, just like I did those stories that are attacking Bitcoin.
Okay. So the Wall Street Journal one I hate the most because I wrote about this in the research roundup. It was like the article that I led with that
I thought it was the Indonesian one that you hated the most.
No. That's
you love that one the best.
That one's pretty fucked up too. But no, this one is like it's so in your face, right? You're constantly being told the mainstream media is impartial and does actual research. These people don't know anything, and they're just a mechanism for state narrative spin basically at this point. Like, come on. I took some shit like a year ago from somebody listening to the show because I called Wall Street Journal a rag, and they're like, no, it's a reputable newspaper. Like, how do you feel now? Like how many times you got to see this stuff from them? They're garbage. The only place to get decent information now is Twitter. There's no other place to get decent information or decent, updates or fact checking. It's all done by people who are, doing this because they just want to dunk on the clowns that have been lying to them for the last 30 years. And it's the only mechanism we have to get truth out of anyone anymore. Wall Street Journal is not going to do it. The trans sex worker thing, I'm not going to talk about the politics of that, but like Glenn, from a product market fit standpoint, who's asking for that article? Who's paying for that publication and being like, I have to get to that page and read that article. This is what I want to read about as far as news. That was The Guardian, you said, put that out?
The Independent.
It's
an attention grabber, let's be honest, because if anybody sees it, they're not going to gloss over it. Oh, this is very interesting stuff. I want to see why the trans sex workers in Indonesia are being impacted by climate change more than their counterparts are.
I don't know. So I just laugh. And the CBC even here, like if you want to just add a notable North tint here, you know, a little flavor shot in your sparkling water, the same thing. It's all the same thing. These guys, they just, it's made up. It's made up. What is the value of saying you're imagining how bad the economy is, and then in the article saying, yeah, all you have to do is cut out shelter, energy, and food, and everything's fine? What is the point of that article? Except rage bait. Are these guys really just trying to make money off Twitter clicks? So like, is that what they've been reduced to? I don't know. It's possible. It seems to me like that's the style of writing they're endorsing and publishing. So maybe that's the case. But
look at it. They're saying if you strip that out of the equation, then inflation isn't a big thing. But then climate change is going to impact you, because if you look at the Indonesian trans sex worker story, they don't have a roof over their head according to this. And the rainy season is fucking impacting them. So you have to have the roof over their head.
No, but shouldn't they be doing better without the roof over their head?
They should be, but they're not, because now something else is impacting them. We go to the next problem.
Well, why don't they just tax the rain? Did they talk to Mayor Chow?
That may be a good idea.
We fixed this already over here. We fixed this. Just talk to Olivia. She'll help you.
That'd be a rainfall of cash, no pun intended, because they have monsoon season over there, right? Think of all the money that would come from the sky every time it's monsoon time.
God bless these people. Listen, I don't read any of that shit, but we'll talk about it every week because it's just too good to pass up.
I will read it. Anyway, President Biden this week, actually today, in fact.
Today, yeah.
Seeking to cancel some interest on student loans. So some interest in student loans. And this is going to aid some 23 million Americans. And he plans to ease student debt that would benefit these 23 million Americans. The administration said, addressing a key issue for young voters who need support during this election year. Remember, this is an election year, trying to gather as much support as possible. Everybody does this. This is not just simply a Biden thing. This is just par for the course. Everyone does it. So the plans, which Biden will detail today in Madison, Wisconsin, I'm not sure if he did. So they was including up to $20,000 of accrued and capitalized interest for borrowers, regardless of income. And so this is going to come out to, if it's $20,000 for all 23 million borrowers, that's, according to LendMath, $460 billion. It's a decent chunk of change. So to date, the administration has approved $146 billion in student relief, and that's for up to 4 million Americans. So they're trying to expand this to a whole bunch more.
Yeah.
So as of June 2023, that's the last data I have, approximately 43 million student loans are on the books for a total of $1.63 trillion. So the question comes up. It's an election year, as I mentioned, right? So they're trying to make life easier for these younger voters, and up to canceling of $20,000 would certainly make things a lot easier. Now, is this move going to be a net positive for Biden if he's going to run, or is it going to be a net negative? And the reason why I ask, are they going to get more young voters voting for them this time around, or an equal amount of voters this time around compared to last time? Or are they going to anger more people that are going to vote against them based on this decision? So I'm trying to wonder, is this something that is good politics, or is it not good politics?
Okay,
I don't know.
So let me read you a couple things here because I tweeted about this just before the show, and I'm back on the tweet thread here. This is really like, if you want to paint a demographic picture of who votes Democrat, these are really the dumbest people in the country. Okay, and I'll tell you why. Some of the programming here is insane. Okay. Cancel debt for borrowers eligible for forgiveness programs but have not yet applied. I read that as someone who can't sit down at a computer for 10 fucking minutes to get out of 5-figure debt that's apparently crippling enough that we have to forgive it. Okay. This person is stupid.
They're busy.
That avatar
for $5 an hour.
That avatar is stupid. Okay. So this person, dumb. We know this. Next category. Cancel debt for borrowers who entered repayment over 20 years ago. You got into a student debt for a program that gave you such a low quality output in terms of your job opportunities that you couldn't pay for it over 20 years and you need it repaid. You're dumb. You're dumb. This is a person who is not smart, period, end of story. Okay. So to give you an idea of where the sort of Democrat wheelhouse is, lowest of the low, lowest common denominator. This is not up for debate. I'm not going to mince my words here. These people are not bright people, period, end of story. Sorry if you don't like that. Okay. But the gravy on top here, Len, okay, of the proverbial poutine is, of course, in the community notes. He talks about how this is a benefit for the economy and how it's important for the states. The top note, the Biden plan has no projected benefit to the economy. The plan has no projected cost. The plan does not address the cost of education. Rather, it charges the taxpayer for coursework the borrowers elected to take. I couldn't have said it better myself. And on top of all that, Len, what kind of policy is this? It's inflationary. It's free money given to people who will spend it on widgets. They've proven they're only going to spend it on widgets because they couldn't get out from the debt burden after 20 fucking years or couldn't sit at the computer long enough to apply for the program. These are widget buyers, okay? That's what we're calling these people now, widget buyers. If you give widget buyers money, you don't help them economically because they cannot be helped economically, period. No matter how much money you give them, they will make a bad decision with it. We've seen this now enough times to establish it as fact. That's the story. This is a poor policy. To your question about will he, get votes for this? I don't know. Maybe. I have a hard time understanding how somebody who can't sit down for 5 minutes at a computer is going to make it to a ballot box, but I guess it doesn't matter because they'll just mail in their ballot and it'll be fake anyways. So maybe that's a way to get votes. But Republicans and people on the fringe, especially in a time when everyone is talking about debt, like debt financing, interest rates, deficit spending, people who are on the fringe will say, like, I can't vote for this. I'm already having trouble getting Uber Eats because it's so expensive. I'm already having trouble putting gas in my car because we don't have any, we don't produce domestically here at the rate we should. I'm already having trouble because we're sending $1 trillion over to Zelensky every 6 months. They don't want this. And I think those people, yeah, they may switch, Len. The election, I don't know. I think there's like a real chance this is like a absolutely batshit bonkers 3-4 months leading up to the election, and another batshit bonkers, like buildings on fire, people getting killed in the 72 hours afterward. I'm looking forward to, what are we on? We're on episode 157 or something like that. 158. I don't know what we're on. 158. I bet you in 10 weeks or 12 weeks, just as summer is starting to wind down, let's say August, we'll start to see articles about how the election ballots won't be counted in one day, how it's going to take a couple days to count, a week to count, mail-ins, this, that, the other. And that's when you're going to start to see things heat up. I know it's not directly related to this story, but I think people look at this stuff. It's clearly divisive, okay, to forgive student loans. It is clearly something that separates or that has a fault line between states, between professions, between education levels, between perceived and real value contributed to the economy, among other fault lines that have proven to be very pervasive in the United States, maybe more than other places. And the president's job at some level is to unite a nation. Regardless of how you feel about debt forgiveness, is this a uniting action? It's not. So what, like, these guys don't care about uniting. They don't care about everyone playing for the same team. They don't care about cohesion or social cooperation, any of this stuff. They don't give a fuck. And it shows with policies like this. Oh, it's helping people. These people can't be helped. They can't be helped. Stop throwing good money after bad. You'd never do this with your fucking sister who was addicted to slot machines. Oh, we just have to bail out her slot machine debt. She won't go back. She's living for the one-armed bandit the same way that these people are living to spend money on shit they don't need with jobs that don't provide because they got educations that are worthless. It's not going to help. That's just where we are.
Do you blame the casino, the slot machine people, the people that provide the
Of course not.
service?
Of course not. They're running on incentives just like everyone else.
But they're administered and they're regulated by somebody, right? So they should have been. There should have been some.
If the casino never lets you win, then sure. But the thing is, the colleges, you don't have to go there for interpretive Indonesian trans sex worker dance. You don't have to. You can go there for STEM or engineering, or go to college for plumbing or electrical. You don't have to go for fucking poli-sci or whatever.
Gotta be held accountable, and I'll explain why.
Okay, sure. Tell me why. Tell me why I'm wrong.
Because they're selling a false bill of goods to people, and that should not be the case, because they should be selling the truth.
Are they guaranteeing jobs?
Fantasy.
Are they guaranteeing jobs?
No, but
then what's the false bill of goods? We're going to teach you. You want to learn about underwater basket weaving? We will give you a degree in underwater basket weaving. It's going to have our letterhead. You can frame it. We'll even put it on some cloth paper, some cotton paper that'll look nice.
There's more to it. So they may be offering the underwater basket weaving course, but remember who's paying for that. Now that money, for the most part, is coming from everybody, because it's being
in programs like this. Yeah.
Loans are being given out.
Mm-hmm.
Then that money is given to the universities to pay for the courses. That money is then forgiven, but the money that was given to the university for the courses, they get to keep. Right? They have billions of dollars they're sitting on endowments. Billions.
Yeah. Okay.
And they've collected all this.
The endowment thing is a different conversation, I think. But
this is all fucking collected. There's all a connection here. And they're sitting on this fucking money. And now they are sitting in, well, we didn't do anything wrong. They provided shitty education.
Mm-hmm.
They provided shitty services. And now the taxpayers are going to have to foot the bill, and they get to keep the money.
I know.
Any other world, you'd be fucking hung upside down and shot in the chest like Mussolini did.
Did we talk about Mussolini? That's funny. I call my dog Mussolini sometimes when he gets up to no good. Do you think that there's a like room, and I'm sure we talked about this, you and I, either when we were working together at the lunch table where we were solving all the world's problems, or on the podcast, is there room for a model where universities say, we want 0.05% of your lifetime earnings once you get out of here, but we won't charge you for the tuition? Is there a model for that? Because we talked about this, I think, wasn't there like a baseball version of this?
Well, that's an agent that did this.
It wasn't an agent. Coach? I think it's a league where you get prepared to play pro. They'll fly you around. They'll pay your per diem while you're in development. But then when you get into the draft, they want 1% of your lifetime earnings.
It sounds like
a trade-off.
This is going back to Vern Gagne from the AWA. That he was the guy that owned a wrestling territory in Minnesota, and when he trained people, he said, whenever you get a job, you're going to be sending me a percentage of your paycheck for the rest of your life. Obviously, nobody fucking did it, but you can't fucking expect something like that, right?
I don't know. Well, what's the model that works then? Like, to me, that's the model that works. If you come here, we'll charge you a nominal fee for the education, but you have to give us some percentage of your lifetime earnings. And we guarantee the lifetime earnings will be substantial because the education is going to be good. I don't know, whatever, right? You figure out the wording there.
I'm a bigger fan of just giving them a lump sum, having them provide a service, and everybody's happy in the end. But that service is got to have value.
It's got to be up to snuff. Yeah, it's got to be up to snuff.
And if they're just pumping up people in a particular program, and the majority or a good number of those people aren't able to find jobs in that program or anywhere else that is able to sustain themselves, then people in charge have to say, fuck, we're not doing our students a good service. And the students have to fucking look at the mirror and say, these guys are not giving.
There's no mirrors anywhere in this equation, though, for sure.
Everybody's got to, and I'm pissed off at the fact that everybody is going to have to foot the bill, but the people that got paid, they get to keep the money. Yeah. And that's it. And then
university administrators, famously, like some of the highest paid quote unquote public servants here, the States, basically anywhere, right? The Sunshine List is full of university administrators here in Ontario. I'm not sure what's like other places, but
you know what? I'm going to say, like, I'm fine with that, because I would like to have the best and the brightest teaching our young kids to make them the next generation of the
No, I'm with you. I said that with teachers.
I'm fine with that. I want to ensure that we're trying to prepare them for life, not with a shitty degree or a shitty diploma, but something of value that they could use and they could contribute to society moving forward.
Yeah.
Anyways, let's move on. Notable North. I think there's a couple of stories we should talk about. Toronto downtown. Their
my favorite. It's one of our favorite places. A frequent visitor of Notable North here, downtown
Toronto. Tax. Now their office vacancy rates, it's becoming a real problem. And so this is one of the side effects of shutting down the economy in 2020 and 2021. Office workers, they were starting to work from home as a result, and now they haven't yet all gone back to the office at the same clip in 2019 or before. So some people are working a hybrid where some days at home, some days not. So new stats show that 18% of offices in the core of Toronto are vacant during the first quarter of 2024. This number is going up too. We figured that it's because in Q4 2023 it was 17.4%, and now it's 18%. Slightly increase, but it's not going in the right direction. It's going in the wrong direction. And this number is going to get even worse because there are a bunch of new construction builds that they're now putting the finishing touches to them. And when those come in, when they're ready, well, that's more vacant offices. I'll give you an example. Of the total of the 5 million square feet of office spaces for the new buildings that are being constructed, only 2.9 million square feet have already been secured by tenants. So we'll say 60%. 40% are still vacant. And I'm not sure exactly how they're going to find tenants. But I suspect there may be a creative solution to this. And I'm not making a joke here, but I could see that there may be a push to find a place for homeless to get right. Like if you have an empty office or offices, you have a homeless problem that needs to be addressed, especially next winter, because, what are you doing? Well, let's just solve one problem. And then with this here, and then everybody's happy in the end.
And who pays?
I could see that.
Who pays the leases and the rents for the office buildings?
Of course, everybody does.
You and me, exactly. It's like completely insane. When people ask how you went bankrupt, the answer is always slowly but suddenly. I think we're getting close to suddenly here. So much so that the tax on rainwater seems to have enough legs that it's going to pass. I told you guys a story about my uncle who built a house in Toronto and had all these rules and regulations, how much he could put down in terms of like impermeable surface area, et cetera, et cetera. And now they tax you on that. Then to your point, I'm glad you brought it up because it is the case. I know it's the case because I don't know do you have the Guelph donation of land for temporary encampment site story?
We'll do that next. Yeah.
Why don't we let's loop it in here. I know that the thing about the homeless or even homeless immigrants who are coming to Canada, especially at a time where the mood toward immigration has completely done a 180. The generosity has completely evaporated in the last fucking 8 weeks, basically across political lines. It's coming. They're gonna take office space that's vacant and use it for these purposes. To what end? I don't know. You're gonna just have these people living there forever. Why would they leave? That's the other thing. It's like these temporary solutions, but I see no permanent fix on the horizon, nor do I see any attempt to formulate one by any of the governing bodies, municipal, provincial, or federal. So why would I submit to this? Now, the Guelph story ties into this. Why don't you summarize that, and then we'll keep going. The Guelph story is fucking nuts. It's fucking nuts.
So details on this are very skimpy right now, but I could give you what I have, and maybe you could fill in the blanks what I'm missing.
Sure.
And the city of Guelph is asking for help to deal with their homelessness problem. And they're doing this by asking for people to donate land for a potential temporary encampment site. And part of the criteria is that the property owner must be willing to donate the land for a minimum of 3 years. And the city is looking for a spot close to downtown, but they're willing to consider for other sites as well. And for those who are interested in donating land, they are asked to email the city at purchasing@guelph.ca.
I love that you shared that address. That inbox is going to be just full of hilarious fucking emails. But anyway, keep going.
Well, they're doing this. They're asking people who wish to donate land by April 26th. So you don't have very much time to submit your request. They say, let us know if you're interested. Then we'll get into details at a later date, said James Graham, the manager of economic development and tourism. So based off this, they don't have very much information, many details to share, but it's getting to a point now they cannot deal with the homeless problem that they have on their hands, and they're asking for people to donate lands for up to 3 years in order to temporarily provide shelter. Man, like who would want to do that? But like
they're asking for the highest value land. Okay, have you been to Guelph? When was the last time you were in Guelph?
I don't even know the last time I've been in it.
Okay, so I dated a girl who lived in Guelph when I was like 24. She was going to Waterloo, but she lived in Guelph.
Okay.
And so I went there a bunch of times. Allie, she was a very nice girl. Things didn't work out, obviously, but anyway, story from the time. I'm happily married now. Don't worry about me. The Guelph downtown is like a kind of a relic of when Guelph was a smaller place. Obviously, the university is there now. They have the veterinary school, who took great care of Scoop when he was sick. And they have a lot of sort of positive community aspects there. But open land for an encampment downtown does not exist. If it did, it would be some of the highest value land in the province. Because what do you have in Guelph? You have a lot of the amenities that make living downtown great without a lot of the fentanyl, drug, alcohol, homelessness, crime, and other problems that exist and are proliferating in places like Hamilton, Oakville, Brampton, Burlington, Toronto, etc. You go all the way down the list there, okay? Go out to Ajax, Coburg, it's all the same shit. Guelph doesn't seem to have those problems. They seem to be almost immune to the influx of immigrants that have filled sort of low wage jobs in places like Kitchener-Waterloo, where Conestoga is. And if by and large, it seems to be insulated themselves from almost all the problems that have become prevalent in most Ontario cities. I think it's been a while since I've been there, but last time I was there, this wasn't the case. So the thing I would like note here is, again, like if you go downtown Guelph, the reason they're asking for property in your downtown Guelph, and this is maybe a deep cut if you're not like on the social services scene, but the reason they want property downtown is because it's near services that addicts, people on welfare, new Canadians, etc., the people who are most likely to need a tent encampment to live, it's near the services they need. When I hear that, there's, the Mayor Guthrie there, Cam Guthrie. I don't know much about this guy, but when he says that he wants the land for 3 years, but it has to be near the services that these people need, what I hear is you're going to bring people into these tent encampments. They're going to be near the services, become dependent on them, be with other people who are dependent on them. And the community is going to build in a way that you don't want and fester. And I use that word purposely because it's not growing and blossoming. It is festering in your downtown core, ruining all the things that make the Guelph downtown core great. You can say whatever you want about that, but drug use, alcoholism, dependency on other substances, mental health issues, people who need real support, real ideas, and real help, and don't need to suffer in public for the love of God, do not need to be in your downtown core. They certainly don't need to be there for 3 fucking years. On top of that, if you look at the Guelph tax structure, the Guelph tax demographics, places like, the Guelph University downtown bar scene where McCabe's is and stuff like that, or was, these guys pay the most property tax in the area. Are you really going to tell those people who rely on friendly frontage, available parking, clean streets, inviting communities, inviting neighborhoods, generally safe conditions outside, especially in the summer months, especially when the university students are there? Are you really going to tell them that you're going to take away all those things in favor of a tent encampment that you're claiming is going to be 3 years, but is sure as shit going to be there longer than 3 years? Why would they stay? If they want the land, get it from the university. The university, to your point, is making a ton of money. I'm sure they're offering some quality programs and maybe some that are lower quality than they should be, and no doubt have a huge chunk of money in the bank and tons of land in their real estate portfolio, almost without a doubt. Every university is like this. The swath of land that the Guelph Veterinary Hospital is on, for example, is enormous. I went there with Scoop. We were an hour early when he was going to get checked out for his cancer in his mouth. We walked the full hour, and I didn't walk over the same blade of grass twice. It's a huge, huge campus. You fit a lot of tents on there. You can fit a lot of tents on the Guelph University proper campus. It's a beautiful kind of roaming green space with a lot of huge buildings right on the main strip. I'm sure there's services nearby. Put the tents there. Don't ask a private citizen who has purchased land, presumably with the intent of developing it and contributing to your community, to give it to you for free instead for tents. It is an admission of failure and a normalizing of a condition that is not conducive to building community or building cities. If you do this, you go in the wrong direction. Period. End of story. It's embarrassing. These people should be ashamed of themselves.
Well, the only thing I could think of from all this is if somebody does have that mythical piece of empty land and they are not going to develop on it for some time and they want to keep it empty. So rather than just continually pay property taxes on something that you're not going to develop, I think that the only thing that they're banking on is they'll accept this donation for a short period of time and probably waive any property taxes on it.
I don't.
That's the only way. Yes,
I don't believe them. I don't believe them. I don't believe that it's going to be for 3 years. I don't believe that it's worth not paying the property tax. You're talking about contamination when it comes to drugs and other illicit substances. Like you cannot do this. This is not, it's not feasible, and it's not what modern society should be doing. Solve the problem you have. Stop addressing the symptoms. Stop. The problem you have is with money, it's with immigration, it's with whatever. Okay.
That's what it is.
Throw the dart, throw the dart wherever you want. There's a million places you could throw the dart, and you will find the problem on the board. But you can't keep saying, well, we just need a place to put them. No, you don't. You need to improve the situation for these people. Putting them in a tent in someone else's land is not how you do it. It's, again, it could not be more. There is no more shameful request than this, in my opinion. An admission of defeat, normalizing all the wrong things. Terrible. Shame on Guelph. Shame on the mayor. Shame on all these people.
Well, at least they're not forcing it from somebody's hands. Right now, they're just asking.
Not forcing it yet.
Yeah,
not forcing it yet. Yeah.
Let's do one last story because we started a little bit later on this one.
Sure.
People are still upset at the higher costs, obviously, and 1/3 of Canadians can't believe they're doing this, but they're blaming grocery stores as a result of this. And this is according to a recent Nanos poll. 32% of those surveys said grocery stores are the #1 reason for the sharp rise of food prices. And the surveyors also blamed food manufacturers themselves for increasing prices, as well as weather events. They also are blaming the government, the carbon tax, or a combination of everything. So the survey also says that nearly 1 in 5 Canadians say they know somebody who has, they say 1 in 5 say that they've used or know somebody that have used a food bank in the past year.
Yeah, I believe
20%. Yeah. And you know what? Of 5 people that I don't know of anybody that admitted to me.
You and me are not in that, thankfully, like knock on wood, blessed and lucky. And I think did a lot of the right things, you and I, to not know anybody in that situation. But man, I bet you there's a lot of people who know 5 out of 5 of their friends.
Yeah, so you do the odds. If it's 1 out of 5 and I know 0 out of 5 and you know 0 out of 5, then somebody's got to have 3 out of 5. And then, right. So it's a scary situation what's being what's out there. And so I'm just shocked that people are blaming grocery stores as the main culprit for increasing.
Why are you shocked? Why are you shocked? There's like a plague of financial incompetence and illiteracy, innumeracy, whatever you call it, whatever you want. You see it everywhere. You see it, like we mentioned earlier, in the States, people who think they need their loans forgiven but can't bother to apply. You see it here in people who think we need a higher minimum wage or whatever. Like, there is an illiteracy that exists in the general population, and 30% is lower than I would expect it to be. But I guess that's a positive sign that people are realizing, hey, it's not just like these guys slap stickers on stuff and try and charge me as much as they can without consideration for their costs. They of course consider their costs. We should mention Carolyn Rogers' speech from 2 weeks ago in Halifax. Carolyn Rogers is deputy head of the Bank of Canada, in no uncertain terms, saying that the fix for all these things is basically two-pronged. It is getting rid of all these stupid monopolies in grocery and telecom in every silo that we have them, these oligopolies, I should say, and increasing productivity, investing in research, development, and things that will help people produce more for each hour worked. She noted specifically that when you have oligopolies like this, profits are good, and like your income statement looks great, and you don't have to do anything to innovate. You don't innovate. This is the case here. And so innovation doesn't just come on the side of, increasing wages, but also increasing your efficiency in terms of productivity, transport, packaging, all this stuff. They don't have to do fucking any of it. And worse, if I think about stuff like the carbon tax, it's only really one part. One thing people don't talk about nearly enough is this war on plastic packaging. I was in the store yesterday. My wife and I wanted meatball subs for dinner. I love a good meatball sub. I go to the Fortino's here in Dundas on Main West. I grab the best buns I can find, like those nice, like 8-inch sub buns. I get the pack of Fortino's meatballs. If I don't feel like making it myself, Fortino's makes a good meatball. The packaging now, Len, is so like clearly tailored for some stupid regulation around what you can put in packaging. Like that's expensive to do because not everywhere in the world requires you to do this. And so if you're a packaging manufacturer, you charge more to produce that package because you only have to produce it a little bit. And so you have to change your line, your assembly line, right? To put it in like general terms. When you start thinking about all these little things, these little cogs in a process that add costs, it's hard to conceptualize it for the average person, for one of those 32%, okay? The average widget buyer doesn't understand that. But when you ask somebody who's got some level of competence and understands sort of the bigger picture when it comes to the cost of things, the first thing they will point to is supply chain. And yeah, carbon tax, of course, contributes to it negatively, but also this other stuff contributes to it too. Because, if you've ever ordered, I'll give you an example of how this looks when it's done right. If you've ever ordered something on Amazon and asked yourself, man, why is this box so big? How could it be that this box is so big for something I ordered that's so small? The reason the box is big is because the warehouse that day had more of those boxes than any other boxes. And someone somewhere, some algorithm, some AI decided that sending Buddy too far down the warehouse to get a smaller box for your stuff was not worth the money. They put put your stuff in the same size box as the guy who got the lawn chair, even though you only ordered protein powder. That's what efficiency looks like. That's why Amazon is so cheap. That's why they deliver for basically free. And that's why they do such a good job all around the world. It's logistics. And when you talk about logistics, there's so many different elements to go into it. People just don't understand. And so, like I said, 32% is high, but it's also lower than I would have expected, honestly, with the number of just like media publications, television spots, constant berating from CBC, Nat Post, Globe and Mail, The Spectator, The Star. Oh, the carbon tax. It's actually the carbon rebate. The rebate's going up. It's money in your pocket. No, it's not. Nobody with any like baseline level of competence believes this to be the case because it's just not true. It's plain and simple not true. You see it everywhere.
I think that's it for the show.
That's it.
That's it. Let's end it right here.
That's it. Good night. God bless. Let me know if you want to play receiver for my team. And until next time, take care of yourselves.
And don't be a cock.